Welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we round up the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We're so close to getting back underway with the United States Grand Prix, and the F1 news machine has been producing plenty of stories. This week, Dr. Helmut Marko has publicly stated that Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson are in a direct contest to replace Sergio Perez at Red Bull next year. The reason for Adrian Newey leaving Red Bull has been revealed, while Esteban Ocon has outlined the reasons why Renault and Alpine have failed in Formula 1. All that and a whole lot more in today's show. So the United States Grand Prix weekend hasn't even started yet. Liam Lawson has not got back into that RB car for the first time in a race situation in 2024, and it's already coming out that both he and his teammate Yuki Tsunoda are now going to be in a head-to-head competition to replace Sergio Perez. Let's have a look at what's been said here, guys. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always. The remainder of the 2024 season is shaping up as a head-to-head shootout to determine the identity of Max Verstappen's teammate for 2025. After Singapore, Red Bull triggered a break clause in the underperforming Daniel Ricciardo's contract at the junior squad RB so that Liam Lawson can step in. The conventional wisdom is that with Yuki Tsunoda already confirmed for 2025, RB is simply getting in early with its full race lineup for next year. However, Dr. Helmut Marko admits that Verstappen next year will ideally have a young driver rather than Sergio Perez as a teammate at Red Bull. That's just what you want to hear from your management if you're Sergio Perez, isn't it? The important thing is to keep Verstappen, Marko told ORF Tyrrell, there we go, ideally with a young driver as a teammate from our junior program. In effect, that means that Perez is in contention with new RB lineup Lawson and Tsunoda for the seat next to Verstappen at the senior title charging Red Bull team. Excuse me, still suffering from this cold, but I'm nearly there, guys, nearly 100% again. I don't know how many races Lawson was faster than Yuki in last year, so we decided that now is the time to compare him with Yuki, Marko confirmed. We want to see who is faster between the two. If Lawson or Tsunoda is promoted to Red Bull Racing, that would open up a cockpit at the junior RB outfit for Isaac Hadjar. Marko admits he feels he already knows what the Red Bull Racing and RB lineups will be in 25. But let's wait and see, said the 81-year-old Austrian. Everyone is noticing that Yuki has improved a lot. He has better control over his emotions now. He was losing speed with his tirades, and that was worried. That's what we're worried the most. But that's in the past now. He's fast and consistent everywhere, Marko added for the 24-year-old Japanese driver. Young drivers are back in fashion, said Marko. Did they ever go out of fashion? That'd be news to me. Our approach to working with young drivers is now being followed at Mercedes with Kimi Antonelli and Haas with Oliver Behrman. And I hope Franco Colapinto will also get a seat because he has had three great races. He has had three great races, absolutely. So, right, well, what do I think of this? Well, it's Marko being Marko. I mean, the thing is of Red Bull, right? Unless you're Max Verstappen, you're not comfortable relatively. And even he is showing that there's quite a bit of pressure on him. I just think it's not said publicly as much because it's very hard to criticise a guy who's absolutely dragging that car to a potential Constructors' Championship, a probable Drivers' Championship, you know, it's single-handedly down to him almost. With Checo, I mean, there's all these kinds of rumours about Checo leaving after this year. I'm not so sure I buy it, to be honest. I mean, they've done this before. Remember Alex Albon? He was promoted to Red Bull half a season into his Toro Rosso career, and he absolutely sank. Now that's not because Albon is a bad driver, far from it. He's a great driver. We've seen that at Williams since then. I honestly back him to put in a good performance against Carlos Sainz next year as teammates at Williams. But I think it'd be too much too soon for Lawson. And then do you put Tsunoda in? I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like, again, that I'd just crush him, to be honest. I would rather keep Checo Perez in the car, but then again, they'll probably be thinking, well, Perez has cost us this Constructors title, which you could argue that's happened, but at the same time, the car has decreased in terms of its overall performance. That is without a doubt. So Red Bull have to take some of this blame as well. Not all of it, of course, because Verstappen is still leading the Drivers' Championship by some margin. If they lose the Constructors' Championship, which they will do, it will be because Perez didn't score enough points. Now, Perez has not scored enough points in my view because both the car has not been right and also he's not been right for the car too. So it's kind of a shared blame there, but of course, they're not going to sack the car, are they? they'll sack the driver. So, although I think it's possible they'll replace Perez for next year, I don't think it's likely personally. But what do you guys think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below as always. So Adrian Newey has signed for Aston Martin. That is old news now. It's been going on for a long time. But the rumours were abound about him going to Ferrari initially when this whole story broke that he was going to leave Red Bull. And in fact, Ferrari have confirmed, or at least Fred Vasseur confirmed, that they spoke to Adrian Newey, that they wanted to get him on board, but apparently they did not align their values. And what I read from that is that Ferrari were wanting Newey as an out-and-out designer, and Aston Martin have effectively offered him a designer owner kind of role at Aston Martin. So that's something that Ferrari were not willing to do. Can you imagine Newey being a part owner of Ferrari? That's sacrilege. That would not be allowed in Italy, I'm afraid. But according to some, Ferrari have made a big mistake with this. They've been very short-sighted to miss out on Adrian Newey. So let's have a look what's been said. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always, guys. 1992 world champion Nigel Mansell thinks that Ferrari were short-sighted to not chase Adrian Newey more stridently. Newey, who Mansell suspects will get more energy from his calling as a Formula 1 designer by leaving Red Bull, ultimately opted to move to Aston Martin for 2025. But specialist media sources in Italy note that negotiations only broke down between Newey and Maranello because of the 65-year-old's reportedly excessive demands for influence and money. I think the fact that he's gone to Aston Martin is so wise because he won't get caught up in the politics of Ferrari and the hype that goes with that, said Mansell, who raced for Ferrari between 1989 and 1990, and he was speaking to top offshore sportsbooks. I think Ferrari should be licking their wounds a little because they should have got him. But all credit to Aston Martin, said the 71-year-old. Wow, 71 years old. Of course, he was like 40 when he was in the championship. That was 30 years ago, so adds up. However, Mansell said that he was not surprised that Newey was also not more tempted to link up with Maranello-based team, especially with Lewis Hamilton joining for 25. No, not really, he said. As soon as I heard that Ferrari were balking at a possibility on the wage bill that Adrian Newey wanted, I think that was short-sighted of them. They've lost an opportunity because whoever gets Adrian Newey is almost assured of having a fantastic few years, Mansell continued. I think Aston Martin have done something very special in securing his services. I think what he can do at Aston Martin could be his biggest achievement to come, because I think he can turn the team around very quickly. And Red Bull, they've already just demonstrated that without him, they've lost their dominance. All absolutely true. I absolutely agree with that. I feel like with the regulation change coming up in 26, Aston Martin are even a dark horse. I mean, I think they should be one of the outright favourites, really, to be honest. I wouldn't even call them a dark horse. I think that's doing them a disservice. Another former F1 driver, Ralf Schumacher, whose brother Michael won 5 consecutive world championships in red, agrees that Red Bull will continue to struggle without Newey. I have the feeling, perhaps wrongly, that Pierre Vacher is not up to the task, he told Sky Deutschland. He is certainly a brilliant engineer, but he lacks the instinct that helped Newey solve problems quickly and effectively. He seems to be struggling to establish the optimal connection between driver and car, and if Max Verstappen leaves the team, that will be the last link, because in Singapore we saw him single-handedly achieve a result again. I mean, yeah, he is pulling off miracles. Is Max Verstappen, to be fair, in that car. It's pretty clear that it's not the fastest car in the grid, and even the likes of Dr. Helmut Marko have openly admitted it's not. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? But they're still being honest about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it is a mistake from Ferrari. I mean, it's kind of like, just you've got I mean, I'm not doing myself any favours with this reference, but they've got to use the Godfather strategy. Give him an offer that you can't refuse. And I feel like potentially they should have done that. But then again, like I said in the intro, would Ferrari have allowed Adrian Newey to be on the board of directors, a part owner of the team? Probably not. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't even know if Ferrari are listed as a thing on the stock exchange in Italy. I imagine they are, but I'm not up with my Italian business deals, guys, I'm afraid. I've got a lot of interest, but yeah, the Italian stock exchange is not one of them. So yeah, absolutely, they could end up regretting it. I mean, if Aston Martin come out of the blocks in 2026 with one of the fastest cars on the grid and Ferrari are not challenging, because at the end of the day, Newey might well win championships with Aston Martin, but Ferrari might win championships as well. Why not? They've got one of the fastest cars on the grid right now. Charles Leclerc and Sir Lewis Hamilton is arguably the best driver pairing on the grid in 25, and they're going to have him for 26 as well, maybe even longer. So What are your thoughts? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below on this, guys. I feel like they could end up regretting it for sure, but I think Ferrari still have the tools to succeed. Red Bull, on the other hand, they're kind of fighting with two hands tied behind the back at this point, really. It's not really going well. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This is really worrying. This is really worrying here, guys. I did not expect to be seeing this news coming out of the land of the rising sun, but it seems as though Suzuka, the home of the Japanese Grand Prix, is under threat. And all I have to say to that is no, 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 no. Don't even think about it. What's the Japanese word for no? Ie. No, don't even think about it. Suzuka is one of the best tracks on the calendar in my opinion. It's absolutely legendary. It's brilliant. I love it. It's one of the, it's a dream race for me to go to one day. I would love it. The Japanese fans are fantastic, and wherever you host the Japanese Grand Prix, they'll be brilliant, I'm sure. But Suzuka is an absolutely special place in the hearts and minds of motoring fans and F1 fans around the world. But let's have a look at this full article on the F1 Chronicle, guys. Japanese Grand Prix host Suzuka is sparing no effort in looking to safeguard the future of his F1 race. As Web.jp, a specialist Japanese motor racing portal, noticed that Honda-owned Suzuka's president Tsuyoshi Saito attended the Japanese Grand Prix of Monza last month. When asked about it, Saito answered, "We are considering what improvements are necessary for traditional circuits to survive in the new era that is coming. Monza is a traditional circuit, just like Suzuka. We visited Monza to see for ourselves how they have continued to host F1 races up to the present day while cherishing their traditions." The good news for Suzuka is that, unlike Monza, whose officials are hoping the current renovation efforts result in a new F1 race contract beyond 2025, the Japanese Grand Prix is currently guaranteed through 2029. Yes! Great news! But Saito said he is already looking into 2030 and beyond. I also visited the Silverstone circuit in July and the Circuit de Catalunya in May, even though it was for MotoGP rather than the F1 race. But other company members have also visited other circuits as well, he revealed. It is very interesting to see how historic circuits are changing. Catalunya, Silverstone and now Monza are all aware of the issues and are taking on various challenges to move to the next stage. Indeed, as F1 owner Liberty Media continues to receive proposals from new hosts wanting to join the 24-race annual calendar, moves are afoot to divide events into two categories: those with a guaranteed annual date and those who may need to annually alternate, i.e. those that pay a lot and those that pay more. Saito says Suzuka, like Monza, is already being upgraded. In August, it was announced that the hospitality terrace on the third floor of the pit building would be renovated in preparation for the 2025 race. Yes, said Saito. We want to do everything in our power to create an environment that satisfies not only our guests, but all our visitors. He says that this will be done without compromising on the traditional appeal of the 62-year-old circuit. We must protect the fact that it is a race circuit that is loved by racing drivers all over the world, said the Japanese. We want to continue our basic idea of providing the best racers on a great course. However, we also need to increase the number of new fans, and we also need to create an environment that includes ingenuity and entertainment to attract inbound tourists to Japan and Suzuka. It is notable that Suzuka's latest upgrade plans followed reports earlier this year that Osaka may be preparing to make a revival bid for the Japanese Grand Prix in the future. We have nothing to say about Osaka, Saito insists. What we need to do is think about focusing 100% of our efforts on how to make the Suzuka race enjoyable for our customers. I think it's good news for the Japanese motorist world that many people are becoming interested in motorsports, and there is a momentum to turn into an event. On top of that, I think it's important for us, the organisers of the Formula 1 Grand Prix in Japan, to fulfil our role and meet everyone's expectations. So there you go, guys. That's a bit of my own knowledge here. So let's have a look at what the Pacific Grand Prix, because there was a second race in Japan in I think 1994 and 1995, and it was held at Aida, I believe. Let me just have a look here. So where is the Aida circuit? There we go. Tanaka Aida circuit. Is that in Osaka? Let's have a look. My Japanese geography is not very good, guys. I do apologise. It doesn't look like it, no. So where is Osaka? Better Wikipedia here for you guys. Let's have a look. Osaka. It looks like it's in a similar place, is it not? Am I being blind? Possibly. Is Osaka? Don't add bookmark. Control F, not Control D. Osaka. No, I don't think Osaka's in. Right, so it's probably not Aida. Oh, is it a street circuit? Is it an Osaka street circuit, guys? Oh god, it's gonna be an Osaka street circuit, isn't it? That's what they're wanting, isn't it? Right. So my thoughts on this. I mean, I made my thoughts very, very clear in the intro to that. Suzuka is one of the best tracks in Formula One, arguably the best track in Formula One. It is a spiritual home for motorsport fans. It is a beautiful circuit. It's interesting saying about, some people might be worried about what the organisers saying in terms of the renovations, because Suzuka, for those who don't know, Suzuka has remained almost exactly the same in its layout since 1987 when it first hosted a Formula One Grand Prix. There have been some minor changes, particularly for the accident of, I believe, was it Alan McNish in the Toyota in 2002? He had a horrific crash at the 130R, and they made some changes around then for that. But that was more to do with the runoff and a minor correction, I believe, to the actual topography of the corner. I think they made it more flat rather than being more cambered. Something like that. Anyway, it's a long time ago now. I don't think what he's saying is talking about changing the layout. The layout's fantastic. It's a real challenge, and I don't want it to change. They might change some runoff areas or something like that, which is a bit sad, but not the only ones to do it. Remember the Parabolica having its gravel track right on the outside? F1 Chronicle remembers those days. So yeah, it's really sad if the Osaka comes on to replace it eventually. It's not going to happen until 2030, so it's a long way down the road. I won't rule it out, anything with Formula 1. We're going to have a Formula 1 street race calendar eventually, something like that. So they're more talking about making changes to the facilities, which is fine again because they want to get more money and they have to generate the revenue to put up the race hosting fees, which again is sad, but that's Formula 1. You don't pay enough, you're out. Simple as that. Whether you're historic or not, the French Grand Prix is on the calendar, the German Grand Prix is on the calendar, and Formula 1 is also very clearly trying to go for this model where it's like you're on every year, you're on every other year, and there's going to be a lot of those races that are on every other year, and they're still going to get charged insane amounts of money. So that's my kind of thoughts about it, guys. But the main thing is Suzuka is going to remain the home of the Japanese Grand Prix until 2029 at the earliest. So I'm all fine with that. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So there's been a lot of theories going around about the reasons for Adrian Newey's rather sudden exit from Red Bull. Now this is a lot going on. Red Bull are a team that we talk about a lot here on the F1 Chronicle, and usually with the craziness behind the scenes. Despite the incredible success they've had on track, off track, particularly this year as well, it has been a very, very tumultuous time, shall we put it, with Adrian Newey of course leaving for Aston Martin for next year. Interesting quote here though on the F1Chronicle.com that we're going to get into about who said it and everything. Not all, good old Dr. Helmut Marko with many quotes of course as usual, but he's basically come out and said that the death of Dietrich Mateschitz, the former head of the Red Bull group, that basically triggered the reason why Adrian Newey has left Red Bull. So let's have a look at what's been said here. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always, guys. So the late 2022 death of Dietrich Mateschitz was the leading cause of Adrian Newey's decision to leave Red Bull. That is the suspicion of team advisor Dr. Helmut Marko, although he admits that other top departing names, including Jonathan Wheatley and Will Courtney, were attracted by big money offers and more powerful positions. When you win, and we have won a lot in the last 3 years, it's normal that your employees are coveted by other teams, Mark told ORF Title. That is the normal game in Formula 1. What surprised me a bit are the amounts that are offered. We always struggle with the budget cap, but these people are often being offered double. That means we couldn't keep some of them. Newey was with us for 17 years, Wheatley for 19. They were part of the team, part of the group and part of the club. They were a big part of our success, said the 81-year-old. That hurts. But whether they leave for financial reasons or career reasons, it makes no difference if we cannot offer the same. Another obvious factor, however, is the leadership turmoil and Christian Horner scandal that marred so much of the 2024 season for Red Bull. Marko explained, there was a certain charge with the death of Dietrich Mateschitz. He was in fact the only leader. He made quick decisions, he was charismatic and an entrepreneur who had a vision and was prepared to take risks. After his death, everything at the company had to be reorganised because you cannot just replace a single figure with such a personality with one person. I think that changes the team in the team were also due to this, and especially in the case of Newey. I think that is why Adrian decided to look for a new challenge. And let's put it this way, the situation with Horner certainly didn't help, but internally we sat down together and said that we had to join forces, work together in all areas to win this World Championship and also have a winning car for the future. That's a tough one to talk about. I mean, when Newey joined, Matisic, basically he was wanting to make a championship winning Formula 1 team. It was his ambition. I think he spoke to Christian. I mean, I believe I know I read this somewhere, and I think I read it in Adrian Newey's book. I might have read it somewhere else, but I definitely read that basically when Red Bull started in 2005, they brought Christian Horner on board, who had no Formula 1 experience whatsoever. I think he was the team principal of like ART or something like that in Formula 2, or GP2 as it was back then. And Matisic basically sat down with Horner and said, what do we need? What do we need to do to make a winning Formula 1 team? And he says, well, if you really want to be a winner, you got to get the best designer. You got to get Adrian Newey, but he's going to cost a fortune. And Matisic says, no problem, bro. I got you. He didn't say that, but you know what I mean. So from there, you know, obviously the ambition, the kind of ethos of Red Bull in those early days was what attracted Adrian Newey. The fact of going from the absolute grey of the greyest over at McLaren, in the literal sense, everything was grey, everything was boring. It was all corporate and very Ron Dennis, and Adrian Newey hated that. To go then to what was the ultimate party team in Formula 1, that was part of what attracted him there. And I'm sure he had a very close relationship with Dietrich at the end of the day, so I think that's probably part of it. But I do disagree, and I feel like Helmut Marko has to. He's even admitted it's part of the reason, but he can't really say that the main reason is Christian Horner. I feel like that seems like the final nail in the coffin. I feel like he might have been thinking of leaving anyway, just because he was there for so long, he achieved so much, but the whole stress and turmoil of being around that team, I think that would have been too much for him. But yes, the passing of the founder, of course, is very sad, and that has to factor into what this is all about at the end of the day as well. But I feel like the Horner thing is a bigger thing. I feel like there's other top staff members. He says other top staff members leaving is part of the reason. I might be wrong here, but I think Adrian Newey was the first of those. I think Wheatley and all those other people, they've all left much later on. I'm sure they did, or said they were going to leave much later on. So I feel like that is not the reason. I feel like Newey leaving is maybe the reason why they've left, but I don't think them leaving is why Newey has left. But what do you guys think? What is the main reason for Adrian Newey leaving? Is it because Aston Martin have offered this amazing role of him being both a shareholder and also a part owner effectively, and also a designer? I don't think that's the reason he's left. I think that's the reason he's joined Aston Martin, but I feel like he was going to leave anyway. It was just a matter of where he goes at that point, and I feel like the biggest reason why he went was because of the Horner thing. That was the final nail in the coffin. The timing is not coincidental. It was announced around, he said that he made the decision around the Japanese Grand Prix, which was about a month after the whole Horner thing came out. I don't think it's a coincidence, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So, we know that Esteban Ocon is going to Haas next year. The American team are getting a new couple of drivers, a complete change from Hülkenberg and Magnussen going to Ocon and Behrman. And Ocon seems a little bit more open now to discuss why things didn't really work out at Alpine and why Alpine's Formula 1 dream has collapsed. Many reasons behind this apparently. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always, guys. Let's have a look at what's been said here. Esteban Ocon insists he doesn't want to make headlines by offering his real opinion about Alpine's decline in Formula 1. But the French driver, who is switching to the American outfit Haas for 25 and beyond, admits that the way both his career with Renault's works team is ending and the end of the Marquis F1 engine program is sad. The 28-year-old sole Grand Prix win came at the wheel of an Alpine in 2021, but since then his relationship with the team and the team's performance have been on a steady decline. There are many factors for the downturn, Ocon told Automotor und Sport. When asked to expand, he answered, "I have a few explanations, but I prefer to keep them to myself. I don't want to make headlines here." Ocon infuriated team management with his crash against teammate Pierre Gasly in Monaco, but he insists that's not the only reason for his exit at the end of the year. "It was already clear to me before that," he said. "We already had discussions with other teams. This even started during the 2023 season. Of course, you are always open to anything, but for me it was relatively clear that I was looking for a new challenge." Like Carlos Sainz, Audi was reported as an option for 2025 for Ocon, but the parties did not shake hands. I don't want to get into detail about that, Ocon insists. We talked several times. In the end, what convinced me most was that Io Komatsu is leading the team. He is a seasoned race engineer who knows exactly what he's talking about. Haas currently employs 300 people, Ocon added, but they achieve more than teams with 1,500 people, and there are big investments in the future that will affect performance. The team has clear goals and I want to be part of that. I have already been to the factory and seen the passion with everybody that everybody works with there. I've missed that feeling, he admitted. Some might surmise that Ocon is ruining his long tenure with Renault and Alpine, especially as he actually beat Max Verstappen to the F3 title in 2014. Yeah, he did actually, that's true. A long time ago, but you know, he did do that. He's a good driver, is Ocon, at least he was anyway. For me, he's still got to prove himself again after what he did against Gasly, but I've already done a video on that at the time. You guys can check it out if you haven't already. That was a really popular one. People enjoyed my rant about that one. You must not give up hope, he says now. Drivers like Jenson Button show that there can suddenly be a chance if you keep working hard and improving and exploit a gap in the regulations and pull off an absolute blinder. But you know, it can happen to any team. 26 is a big opportunity for a lot of teams, Haas included. Last year I fought on equal terms with McLaren's in many races, and now they are fighting for the championship. Anything can happen. I mean, McLaren did beat them pretty convincingly in the Constructors last year, but I know what he means. There were some races where they were around the same kind of part of the track. Unfortunately for Ocon, he has struggled to shake off a reputation in the paddock for being selfish, often unfriendly and hard to work with, especially when it comes to teammates. I think people have the wrong image of me, he responds. After an event, I once spoke to a young journalist for 5 minutes, and afterwards he said, "You know, Esteban, I didn't really like you before, but after our conversation I really..." Did he really say that? Would anybody actually say that? I wouldn't admit that. If I actually met, I've never met him, but if I actually met Ocon in person, I wouldn't say, "You know what, I thought you were a bit of an a-hole before, but now you're actually alright." I wouldn't say that, but maybe this person did say it. I found that very interesting. People out there can get an image of you that doesn't correspond to reality at all. I mean, that's fair enough. That's a fair statement. As for his regular clashes with teammates, Ocon insists that no team has lost places in the championship because of it. I mean, there were a few at Force India, but all right, let's not get on that train. But this year at Alpine, he openly admits that he is dealing with a declining situation. He says, "It hasn't been fun. When I signed in 2020, I had high expectations. There was also big promises, but they didn't become reality in those 5 years." He said, "It's not easy for a driver when you put so much into it and suddenly find yourself at the back." And when he realised in 2024 that the car would be a backmarker, Ocon says he made the decision to look elsewhere early on. "It's really sad to see where we are now," Ocon admitted. "Alpine comes from Normandy like me. I was always proud to wear the logo. It's really sad to see where they are now. The brand deserves more. We give everything, but it's not enough. 5 years with one team is a long time in Formula 1, he said. We had a good and bad moments. It was simply time to try somewhere else." So, yeah, interesting piece there for sure. I mean, he's really. I mean, you're gonna back yourself. You're gonna give yourself the best opportunity, and you're gonna also kind of skew the facts and stuff a little bit, which he's done there. Let's be honest, guys. He's really skirting around some of the burning questions. Really, there. I don't think he's answered them totally truthfully. I wouldn't agree with some of his answers there, but it's interesting him saying things like, "Oh yeah, Haas have got like 200 people or whatever, or 300 people. They're achieving more than teams of 1,500 people." That is a direct reference to Alpine there, without a doubt. Who else on the grid has a team of that size that is underachieving that much? There isn't anybody. Not even Williams are that big in terms of their overall, their payroll, their staff force, as it were. I mean, I feel like Ocon could do well at Haas, but if you're asking me now, what's it going to be like for him next year? I think he's going to get his behind handed to him basically when it comes to Ollie Behrman. And the thing as well with teammates, not all those clashes were Ocon's fault. Some of them were Perez's fault, some of them were 50-50, some of them were... Who else has he been teammates with now? I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's been a few where it's been a bit contentious, but if he's always putting himself in that position, it's always going to be, there's going to be incidents happening, and at the end of the day, the team just looks at the fact that it's an opportunity wasted. And the most recent one, the Gasly one in Monaco, that was 100% Ocon's fault. There's no doubt about it. When your own team is calling you out, it's not good. It's not good. So for me, Ocon is still yet to prove himself. He's had some great drives over the years. He had some good performances for Renault, had some good performances for Alpine, and for Force India as well back in the day. But when it comes to his results and how he's going to perform at Haas, I think he's going to have a really hard time against Bem. And Bem is a superb talent. But with Alpine, they generally, unfortunately, and I've heard this from a few different people that shall not be named, but I've heard that basically Alpine are trying to do F1 on a very tight budget, trying to do it as cheaply as possible. I mean, listen to the interview that Otmar Schaffner, the former team principal of Alpine, did with High Performance. I've listened to it. It's a fascinating listen, and it really shows why they fail. It really shows the organisational structure, the bureaucracy, the backstabbing, the drama. It really is not a surprise that this outfit is completely failing in Formula 1 and will continue to do so unless things change. But they won't change because they're very stuck in their ways and they're very stubborn, unfortunately. Maybe, incredibly, maybe Flavio Briatore is the man to save Alpine. It'll take somebody of his clout, somebody with his influence, his experience to turn around this team. Of course, in equal measure, he is also the person that destroyed Renault in Formula 1 in the first place back with Crashgate. Now, of course, I've already done a full video about that. Check it out if you haven't already. But, you know, it has the potential to destroy it or make it anew. But I think personally, I think they're going to sell. I really do see them selling to Andretti. But there's been some news about Andretti recently as well with their owner. I've got another video that should be out at the same time as this one if you're on Microsoft, going over that about Michael Andretti and why he's stepping down. So check that out if you haven't already. Bit of a longer one here, guys. I've got some strong opinions on Alpine and Ocon as well. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think Ocon will do well at Haas, or do you think it'll be his final move in Formula 1 before he ends up leaving? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed, tune in, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Ring the bell as well. And we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a good one.